Hello, we are back. We are back for another episode of An Unorthodox CEO. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this, our 9th episode. And I want to thank all the listeners who have been tuning in. If you haven't caught my last episode with my dad, my hero, John, you need to check that out. We've had lots of lovely response back, and I think it's really interesting and emotional at times too. So I really do go out and check the last podcast, episode 8, with my dad, John. So I'm Steve Pickering, the CEO of Sussex Beds, and this podcast is all about my journey, our journey as a family in retail and the challenges of growing a small to medium-sized business. And of course, working with my family. And you've met quite a few of them already, but I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, my brother, my younger but slightly taller brother, actually probably a little bit more intelligent as well, but there we go. Quick reminder, click now the subscribe, like, follow on that post so that you don't miss an episode. Because you don't want to, do you? Really? No, absolutely not. No, so do that. So my brother, who's our financial, well, actually, your title is CAO, so Chief Administrative Officer.
That's the one.
But really, Matt heads up our finance and our IT department. And has done for quite a few years. So, but we'll dig into that later. Okay, welcome to the podcast, Matt. Woo, woo, woo!
Thank you very much.
Here we go. So, where we're going to start? We're going to start. Let's start at the very beginning. I think I've said that before in another episode. Oh my goodness, there's a repeat there. So Matt, tell us about your school life, family life when we were younger, and just go back to the beginning, really.
Right. Actually, we're both old enough that we remember Mum and Dad taking over Miles from our grandfather.
Yep.
Moving from the family home in St Leonard's, selling up, moving out, and moving into the flat above the shop.
Yep. On Bohemia Road.
On Bohemia Road. Yep. That was quite a strange transition.
Yeah.
Initially, we was all on one floor within the property.
Yeah.
And me and Steve shared a bedroom. And then Sue came along.
Yes, she did.
An unexpected arrival shortly after they'd taken over the business. And we got kind of hoofed out of our room and ended up living in the attic of the actual property. We had two little beds. Dad had kind of decorated them up. We had two bedrooms up there. We had cabin beds that Dad had got.
We did, yeah. They were two separate rooms, but they were sort of adjoining, weren't they?
Well, yeah. So
with a wall.
There was a staircase up which led to my room, and then there was a doorway through to your room. So you had to. So we fell out. It'd be like, you can't come in my room.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, when I think of that room, do you remember us trying to? We had a dartboard in there, didn't we? And we kept missing.
Yes, we did. We weren't very good at darts.
And hitting the wall.
Yes.
And eventually, it was like, oh, look, we can chip away at this wall. We could dig a hole through to each of our rooms, and then we could talk to each other through the hole.
Despite the fact the hole being right next to the door.
And
Steve says I'm the intelligent one. I don't think either of us were particularly intelligent at that point.
Mum and Dad weren't spare.
They weren't happy.
Don't dig holes in walls, kids.
No, or don't try and dig a lake in the back garden. Steve wanted to go. Steve liked fishing when he was younger, so he decided that he'd have his own fishing lake in the back garden.
Saved me traipsing across to the lake we could have our own pond.
So we just dug a great big hole in the middle of the lawn.
And we got a little bit bored.
We did.
It was just a hole in the lawn.
Yeah, it was just a hole. There was never any fish, no lake.
Mum and Dad weren't happy again. Yeah.
Well, see, I suppose that kind of links to the business, because obviously we spent a lot of time where they were busy trying to develop the business. Both of them worked within the business.
Downstairs,
Mum would be kind of in the shop downstairs and we were upstairs. And one of the things that we had was that there was an old rotary phone which had a button on the top, which was unusual at the time, and you could press the button and that buzzed the phone in the shop. So if we needed to speak to Mum, we could do so. So although we were kind of on our own upstairs a lot of the time, we could kind of like buzz down.
Yeah.
But yes, we got told off because like, can I have some crisps? Sue won't change the channel on the TV. Can you tell her to? Mum trying to work. So we did
left to our own devices.
We were left to our own devices to a certain degree.
But this is the wayward way we went.
Yes,
building
child's dream, isn't it? Left to their own devices.
Oh, happy memories.
Yes.
Yeah. So Matt, obviously there's myself, oldest child, middle child, which is Matt. Mm-hmm. You don't have middle child syndrome though, do you?
I'm legally obliged to say no.
No.
Growing up, you have your older sibling will go off and do things, and you always kind of, I'm not allowed because I'm too young. And then because Sue was the kind of the only daughter, she had Dad wrapped around her little finger.
Yes.
When you get to her, you have to bring up the donkey.
Yeah, the donkey. We'll bring up the donkey when we bring in Sue. We'll talk about the donkey. Yeah. We've never got over that.
No, we haven't. No. Scarred.
Anyway, that's for another edition.
Yes.
So you need to tune in for that one. So living together, we touched obviously John when I spoke to John, and we started talking about when we then moved out of the flat, didn't we, and down to a house. And we, funny enough, was in the attic there as well. Yes, we did.
Again, initially we weren't. We was in the front bedroom.
Yeah.
And Sue had a box room, and then they converted the loft into a bigger room. So we moved up there, and Sue got our room.
Yes. So there's two of us, and then John joined us for the three of us.
Yes, we did. So 2 2'6" beds in a line, like some type of dormitory.
Yeah. And we spoke about that with John, which was fun. And then, really, school-wise, when I said Matt was more intelligent, you done further education. So talk us through how you went through school and really how you then decided or progressed into the family business.
Okay. So for me, I found school easy. It was never really and I kind of just muddled through. I could put the bare minimum in and still do okay, and that was quite. Most of my school was like that. I didn't hate school. It was fine. I came out. I did my GCSEs and I got a good spread. I probably could have done better if I'd applied myself, but it was. It's hard to, as a 16-year-old, you this is boring. I don't need to be doing this. But that's after that. I went on and did A-levels, mainly because I didn't really know what I was going to do. Whereas Steve had moved straight from finishing his GCSEs, went straight to school. I kind of did stay on for another 2 years. I did A-levels in maths, biology, and geography. Towards the end of that, the school were kind of like, well, you need to go to university. You need to apply. I was like, I don't want to go to university. It wasn't really on my radar. I'd kind of got to the point where I'd had enough of being in school. I didn't really want to do any more learning. I got pressured by the school to apply, and I did. And I'd applied to 3 different unis. I eventually got my A-level results, and they were. I did well in biology. I did okay in geography. I completely messed up the maths, and so I thought, that's all right. I've not got enough points to go. And unfortunately, Sussex University said, yes, we want you on our course, and Brighton said, yeah, we want you to do computer studies. And I'm like, that's But kind of, I decided at that point I didn't really want to go. Kind of my involvement with the business kind of started much more long before that. This is a history lesson for Dad. Was he in the business before he leaving school? Cheers, Dad. So I mean, I initially started. I used to. Many years ago, I was probably about 12. On the Saturdays, I would work up in the office that was maintained above the original store in Bohemia Road.
Yeah.
And I used to job share with Darren, who still works for us. And basically, he'd do one week, I'd do the next. And what we would do is we'd sit in the office, and if the stores were trying to sell something, they would ring through and they'd say, "Oh, do we have this item in stock?" I mean, the one that always sticks in my mind is a 3-foot Dorchester drawer. And
it was a good bed. Yeah.
We didn't have computers, or there was a computer, but that was for I think Dad had an accounts computer, but that had no stock control. It was so literally on the wall was your T cards, which is kind of a very old fashioned way. And you'd look, see, yep, we've got one of those. And then when they did the sale, they'd kind of fax the sales order. Fax. I mean, there's you know the printers we've got. It was as big as one of those. It was absolutely massive, this fax machine. And they'd fax through the ticket, and you then kind of pull out the cards and kind of mark where it was coming from. And that's what we did on the Saturdays. And then when I was about 14, Dad needed some extra help on the weekend in the stores. And so I had to kind of go and buy myself a proper pair of trousers and suit, and I started in Haywards Heath. Started selling in the shop there.
Do you remember what your first item that you sold?
I don't remember my first item. I do remember selling my first pocketed sprung.
Oh.
At the time, majority of the beds at that time we sold were open coil. So selling a pocket was a real kind of special. And we used to have a company called Staples.
Yeah.
And I can remember So I had this couple come in, and it was obviously a husband and wife, and the husband was blind. And so we're kind of going around, and I'm showing him the various kind of open coil firm mattresses, because he wanted a really firm one. And he's like, yeah, okay, I like that. Have you got anything else? And my comment was, yeah, come and have a look at this one. Oops. Oh no. And he was like, that's fine. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. And he said, no, it's fine. I said, it's an expression. I appreciate that. And I was mortified. But I did sell them it was an Ortho Classic.
Oh, wow.
Which was a very hard mattress. And it was in a thick grey and white stripe.
Oh, wow.
How
do we remember this now? I mean,
yeah. So I do remember that one. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And then so I worked part-time on the weekends. When I kind of went on revision leave for my A-levels, Dad chucked me in the shop for the week, which was out at Ashford.
Oh my goodness!
So the old Ashford store.
Ashford, yeah.
And I sat there the entire week, and I probably saw 2 people for the whole week.
It wasn't a particularly.
It wasn't a great
shop.
shop. It was very, very quiet.
Yeah. It was about the size of this room, to be fair.
Yeah,
it wasn't
huge. And you'd think that having all that time, I would kind of be able to kind of really knuckle down and study. No, I did nothing. No. I didn't do a single thing.
So obviously, then at the uni, you decided not to.
No, I decided I didn't want to go do that, so I then joined the business on a full-time basis. Which I think it came up recently that I've been here now 32 years full-time.
Wow, 32 years. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. Again, I predominantly worked in Haywards Heath at the time. I kind of stayed there as a salesperson for a period of time, and then eventually took over as manager of the store there.
Yeah. So, do you remember any fun things that have happened. What's the funniest thing? And I'm leading this now. I'm leading this because there's a story that I'd love Matt to talk about.
Well, in which case, there's two stories.
There's two stories.
One feeds in nicely. So, working in Haywards Heath, I was there one day with John.
Yeah.
And it was fairly quiet, and we were kind of stood towards the front of the store. Now, this was before we expanded the store, so it was just the one side.
Half, yeah.
And so the store layout was literally 4 lines of beds, kind of one on one wall, 2 in the middle, and then one, and with walkways between and little gaps between them. And we sat there standing, just chin wagging, just killing time. And I kind of decided I was going to wander back. And as I wandered back, I kind of jumped down between 2 of the beds and hid. I crouched down really low. And I hear John coming down. Now, as he gets level with me, I jump. John at the door turns round, looks horrified at me. The poor woman on the other side of the showroom is terrified. And I'm sorry.
Sheepish away.
Yeah, very sheepish. Slink away and let John serve her. So there's that one.
Yeah, and then this is the one. So I sort of prompted as we come in, and Victoria, we didn't say any more. So Victoria's never heard this story. Okay.
The original bed centre, which was down in Hastings, I was working there one day. Now with that one, it was on. So you had the ground floor and then 2 floors above, and there was a little office, actual kind of closed office with a little cubbyhole window that you could sit in to keep warm, because it wasn't the warmest of stores in the winter. And I was sat there and I was kind of on my own, no one else was there, and I was a bit bored, and kind of it was a vinyl banner for a company called Rest Assured. So it was about kind of that wide and probably about 6 foot long.
Matt, this is a podcast. That wide is what, 12 inches?
12 inches.
12 inches.
I'm catering to your YouTube. About 12 inches by about 6 foot long. Yeah. And I kind of coiled it up into a cylinder, and I then put some tape on it to hold it in place. And I kind of noticed that the hole in this tube was about the size of my finger, kind of, and I poked my finger in this roll, and I then pulled it out, and I had this telescopic finger, like something from the Kenny Everett show. And look, I can point at things up there. It closes down. Oh, look, go gadget finger, and I'm playing with this, and I'm enjoying myself, kind of just entertaining myself as I'm sat there, and then the door opens to the store, and this couple comes in, and I'm like, okay, and I kind of push this thing back, and as I do that, it doesn't go all the way back, and it's got really, really tight. And I'm like, and I'm pulling and I'm tugging, and it won't come off. And I'm like, okay, so they approach towards the little cubby hole, and I stand. I'm like, hi, how are you? And I've got my hands below, kind of like the window, and they're like, we're after looking for some double mattress. And I'm like, okay, all the doubles are up on the next floor. If you want to just go have a quick look, I'll be up in a while and I'll just check on you. Oh, can you come with us and give us some advice? And all I did was lift up my hand with my telescopic finger pointing to the ceiling. Can you just give me a minute, please? Don't ask. And they both smirked and kind of, okay, and they went off. And I was yanking and tugging. Eventually, all the knuckles in my finger cracked. And I eventually managed to pull this thing off, and my finger was bright red, and it was like, yeah. I did get the sale though. So, it broke the ice, and they found it humorous.
And it has made me laugh on many occasions every time I hear it. So there we go. That's a little funny story from Matt. Obviously working in the shops, the big question. So finance. How did you end up in finance?
How did I end up in finance? I'd worked for a few years, and kind of Dad had kind of brought you in and made you a partner within the original company.
Yeah.
And he wanted kind of to do the same for myself. But he also wanted me to kind of step up a bit, take a bit more responsibility. Although I was running the store, but actually become more involved in the actual running of the company itself. And so at the time, he was kind of managing the finance, and he had kind of Jan that used to work with us, that she kind of did all the data entry. And they kind of, and so what he wanted to, so that he could focus more on actually kind of like the buying and the selling side of the business, kind of just move away from that. And so that's kind of why I slotted in. Now, maths was something that I never struggled. It was fine, although I didn't do great at A-level maths.
We'll skip over that.
So it was kind of an area that I got kind of guided towards, really. Not necessarily something I'd chosen to do, but probably what I'm better suited at doing. Yeah.
More detailed than me.
That's not hard.
Ouch. So into finance, and eventually, obviously we become a limited company, and then took on the role of finance director.
Yes. So we maintained the partnership for a period of years, and then kind of it became financially beneficial to transition from a partnership to a limited company. And that's where we kind of our share our portion of the company got turned into shares within the limited, and became the director, and that's where I am now.
Yeah. So, what's it like? Actually, let's go back a bit. So no training in finance specifically, and you trained yourself, or
pretty much.
Because I think this is where a lot of businesses are exactly the same.
Yes, you kind of find someone that kind of fits a niche, not necessarily kind of what they've been trained to do.
No.
Dad essentially kind of said, look, here's a program. You kind of do this here, and you do this there, and there you go. I had to learn kind of roughly what it was I was doing, without any type of financial kind of background at all. A couple of years after I'd been there, we were approaching the millennium, and obviously we had the whole Y2K, the millennium bug. And we were told that by suppliers and by kind of banks and whatnot, you need to make sure that you're compliant and that you need to change all your software. And it was like, okay. Now at the time, Dad was using something he'd been using for years called Pegasus.
Yeah.
And the accountant said, we want you on Sage. So they kind of said, okay, here's the details on Sage. You need to buy yourself a package, and kind of they came in and they helped set it up on the computer. And I said, okay, so how do I use it? And that's down to you. You've got to figure that out. Now, there are certain elements within when you're doing finance which are kind of standard, but I had to try and learn a whole new bit of software on my own, no help, and kind of set up the company, get everything all configured, all the suppliers, everything set up in there. And it was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just kind of, that's how I did it on that one. I'll try and do something similar on this one. And there was a few phone calls to Sage support saying, how do I do this? Well, surely you should know how to do that. Well, I don't. But I managed to muddle through and kind of.
Yeah.
I'm sure the accountants probably loved trying to pick through everything that I'd done. It probably wasn't done properly, or kind of the best practice. But I managed to.
Through. Yeah. And obviously, financial director, probably when you took on that or transitioned into it, you never really knew, I don't think any of us do, of the pressure that comes with that position. And it's probably one of the most pressured positions within our organisation, definitely.
It's you can see probably see things happening before they do. And I don't think I realised what I was seeing, so I never really communicated it in a way that would probably have been beneficial, so that we could have tried to make changes.
Yeah. Are you talking about 2008?
Yeah, I mean 2008,
yeah.
Yes, into 2012, 14, that kind of around that area.
Yeah.
I knew things were going the wrong way, and I think to some extent I wanted to protect everybody else. I didn't want them to worry. So I bought that worry, and it's taken me a very long time to kind of understand that needs to be a shared burden. That protecting and hiding it doesn't help anybody.
No.
And that quite often what you think looks really, really dark and bleak, when you actually speak to somebody, they go, well, actually, and they look at it from a different point of view, and that kind of helps when you've got that support. It helps you kind of feel better.
Yeah.
Because all the time you're feeling down and negative, it makes it worse.
What do you think's been the most stressful time through that period in that position? Because obviously we went through that pain point in 2012, 2014.
Yeah, that was.
But even more recently.
Yeah.
What do you think was more challenging?
That's hard, because I think they both were very challenging. I think probably the more recent upheaval, the whole of kind of the implementation for the NetSuite and
the IT change.
And I think that was difficult in its own right. I mean, that was something.
So not only were you heading finance, you were heading IT and driving
driving the actual project itself. Again, when we started down that road, kind of just over 3 years ago, it was. I mean, Les kind of had said that I would probably be the best person to oversee the project from our point, our side of it. But that was something that was just so completely out of my safe space. I mean, it was scary. It was intimidating. I worried a lot about it, how it was going to work, how things were going to transition, what happened if it went wrong. Alongside that, you've also then got the pressures on the finance side of things, also kind of pushing. So, I mean, between the two, probably that one.
And how did it affect you? What sort of things do you go through when you're going through that intense stress?
So sleep became something of a luxury. I'd struggled to stay asleep. I spent quite a few nights just tossing and turning, ended up going downstairs, curled up with the dog, because I just felt that I mean, there's just that contact and just calming effect that pets have. But I spent quite a few nights just sleeping on the sofa, because I didn't want to disturb my wife.
No.
So I found that I lost interest in anything that I enjoyed. I just couldn't find the motivation to do things. My life kind of paused for the best part of 2 years.
Yeah. And of course, and on top of that, head in IT, head in finance, and then you obviously have family at home.
Yep.
And a daughter and a son.
Yep. Yep.
And your youngest son is autistic?
Yeah, quite severely autistic. We had our diagnosis when he was 4 years old. For a very long time, he was virtually non-verbal. And that has, a huge stress and strain. He unfortunately was deregistered from the school that he was at a couple of years ago.
How old is he now?
He's 17 in September.
Blimey.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he had a bit of a false start to secondary school. So COVID had hit just as he was due to transition. So there was no kind of passing across. You had obviously the various lockdowns and kind of where they weren't allowed to attend, and when they went back, it was on a limited timetable, and plus then kind of his hormones surging just meant that he became very awkward. And unfortunately, he at that time, the only way he could communicate effectively was to lash out. And I mean, I can understand the schools kind of not wanting to be, because it's not a particularly pleasant thing when a 14-year-old that has no restraint goes for you. But that then meant that he's been literally at home 24/7 for the last 2 years, which is very hard.
Hard for you?
Very hard to parent for me and Louise, it restricts what you can and can't do. He's now at a point where we can leave him for short periods, but you don't like to leave it for too long.
No.
No.
And do you get much help and support from else?
No, there's no help, there's no support.
No.
And unfortunately, there's very limited facilities for children with that level of needs. I think in the whole of Sussex and Kent, there's only one school that said that they could meet needs, but they have no space because they're oversubscribed. The thing is, he's very happy with his life. He lives in his room. He's no different than any other teenage boy in that regard. He watches his YouTube videos. He plays on his computer consoles, and he's quite happy in that regard. But it's tough for us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Matt. Because I think it's important. People understand the people in business. It's all very easy to look at us as just figureheads, but actually there's life and things that go on behind.
Everyone has a story that behind them that you don't know and don't see. No one. I don't think anyone has it really that easy.
No. Cool. So escapes. How do you? You spoke about sleepless nights and how How do you escape? How do you cut off from the pressures of work and home?
About just over 10 years ago, I kind of I got to a point where I wasn't happy with the way I was, and so I started doing exercise. Initially just doing kind of a fitness class. That progressed to, I took up running, and I was okay. I could. It's something I'd never really. If we just skip back, neither of us were athletic at school.
I still aren't.
No.
Is aren't a word? I'm not. It's fine.
It was probably the first time I'd done anything in probably the best part of 20 odd years. And it was very tough at first, and then I lost quite a bit of weight at that point, and I started running, and I enjoyed running. I liked being able to just get up, and because I'm a morning runner, I like to get it over and done with, and so I'd like to get up, go out and I was running distances and it's good headspace time because there's no one else around. It's quiet. There's no cars. There's no people. It's just you and just that monotonous pat 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 pat. Sometimes I'd have music. Sometimes I wouldn't, depending on my mood. But yeah, it's just. But I found I did some good thinking at that time. So that's kind of. That took a bit of a hit during the last couple of years. Yeah. There was a few injuries involved. I had problems with one of my knees, with the quads on my left side, and then I pulled a hamstring earlier this year. And there's been a few niggles which have kind of impacted that, but I'm trying to get back into that now. But running's hard now.
You're in for the Hastings Half next year?
I am in for the Hastings Half.
When's that, in October?
No, I'm not that one. It's the
April?
Yeah, I just transferred because Hastings Half this year, unfortunately, I was all set to do it, and then I had this hamstring injury, and I'd already kind of booked, and so I deferred my placement till next year, and then literally the day before it was due to happen, there was some type of bomb scare down on the Hastings seafront, and the whole event got cancelled. So, that's. I'm not doing. I don't think I'm in a position really to get myself ready for October. Next year, next March.
It's March.
Normally March. I'll have another crack. I've done it a few times, but. That'll be.
And your other hobby, Matt?
Yes.
Which, if anyone comes into our office, our back office, Matt's got a cabinet behind his desk.
I have 3 cabinets.
3 cabinets.
Yes. So
go on.
So my hobby, my jam, is Warhammer 40k, which is a tabletop game. It's something I've done since I was about 14. So kind of building and painting miniatures. And then getting together with a few friends and playing games. I find the painting when I'm in the right mindset. I find that the painting is very relaxing. It helps me switch off completely. I can put something on YouTube, just playing in the background, and then I can just focus on what I'm doing, and I can lose a couple of hours easily. And I find coming home from work, because my wife doesn't normally finish until later, I can have a couple of hours just sitting there, putting paint to brush and kind of just painting. And so I'm not allowed to have them on display at home. So I kind of decided.
That's not Louise saying you can't, or is it?
Yeah. Louise says I'm not.
Really?
I'm not allowed to have my toys. So I kind of early this year I kind of decided, well, I'm going to buy some nice glass cabinets. And some of the bits I'm particularly proud of, I'm going to have on display, because otherwise they were just all kind of in boxes in my garage, and I'm not ashamed of my hobby. I enjoy it. It's good fun. I mean, I stripped kind of one of the pods of desks here at the back office back in December. Took all the computers off and we set up and we did a huge game up here, and it was good fun. We spent the whole of a weekend just.
That's on YouTube too, isn't it?
It is on YouTube. Yeah, Black Toad Studios. If you'd like to go and view it. So that's kind of part of what I do. I now have 2 dogs. I've literally just got a brand new puppy on Monday. So I've got 2 boxers. I have Bodhi, who's 2.5. She's a beautiful tan and black one. And then we've just got Buffy. And yes, that is the Vampire Slayer. My geekdom shines through. And she's a brindle, and she's literally 8 weeks old, or 9 weeks old now, and she's a little terror. I keep taking video clips and sending it to the office group. This morning's one was her hanging off my leg, kind of attacking my laces. But we love, one of the few things that me and Louise can get to do together is just go out for an hour or so, take the dog for a walk and just watch her. And that's kind of one of our pleasures in life.
And another escape, isn't it?
Yeah, another escape, And again, just wander around, watching them just enjoy themselves. Is just another way of winding down. And then the affection that they give you. Again, that helps.
Yeah. And I guess really we need to also say is, the pressures of the last 2 years, it has been a much better period the last 6 months.
Yes.
We obviously we'd brought in some help or some external help, and I think that's also had an impact. It's a fractional CFO that comes in.
So we have had Mike, who's our fractional CFO. I mean, really, the whole kind of drive behind getting him was part of the doing the IT project. We had Les, who was a fractional CTO.
And that worked well. Didn't
and
it?
he was. I mean, top tip. He was.
Hold the tip. Top tip.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got a top tip bit in a minute.
No.
Yeah.
We'll cut that bit. But having had him during that project was really helpful, and kind of when we come out of that, and we realised that we were in a little bit of a sticky kind of cash flow issue, and we needed kind of a bit more knowledge than we had.
Higher level,
And although over the years we've gleaned knowledge, and we've kind of we probably have far more now than when I first started. Having someone that can actually assist you with that, and give you just reaffirm that one, you've got a good business. It's sound. It's just in a little bit of a tricky spot, and that in so many months' time that will ease, and that helps. To
share again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's someone to unburden with when you're feeling kind of low and that kind of. I think part of from ever since with the IT project and the stresses that put on everyone, I think we've become far more open. And kind of sharing that kind of responsibility far better now. Between us in the senior leadership team, and also keeping everybody informed, so everybody knows what's going on. It's not a shock when things haven't gone quite as people understand that, and then you
put a plan in
and you all work together to achieve it. And I think that when we look at kind of what we've done over the last probably 9 months. The coordinated effort, and it's kind of been from sales, from product, from operations, and then from finance, all working to try and
probably never worked so well together. Actually.
No, they haven't. But everyone's trying to achieve the same. Get that same goal, get everything back on track.
Yeah, cool. Right. We need to move on because and we've got okay. Here we go. I've got some quickfire questions for you, Matt.
Okay.
Right. Matt has not seen these quickfire questions. In fact, nor have I. So I'm reading them. The first question is: favourite memory of working together.
Favourite memory of working together.
Yeah.
I've got 2.
Oh, okay.
So before we came in, I said, I probably won't say a lot. I'm not a talker. One would probably be bed knob bowls. So, again, in our younger years when we weren't quite so serious, because you can tell we're serious. We're serious business people these days. We were working in Bexhill, and it was a little bit tedious that day.
Yeah, a bit quiet.
No one so we there were loads of spare bits and bobs for various different frames, and there was these brass bed knobs. So like the one from Bed Knob and Broomsticks.
Yeah, it is.
A bit like that.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we get a roll of tape.
Yep.
And we'd roll the tape down the aisle between the beds, and that was our jack. And then you'd have to roll the bed knob, which was obviously not perfectly round, and try and get as close to the tape as you could.
Bed knob bowls.
So that was a game that we used to play. And then another time in Bexhill, you know what this one is.
Oh, do I?
Yes. We had this range of bedroom furniture come in, and it was very expensive, and it had really good packaging, and it had these really thick corner cardboard pieces, or they're quite chunky. And we decided that actually they'd make quite good swords.
Cool.
And so we had one each, and we bashed them about, and they kind of fell apart quite quick because they weren't overly strong, but they were quite thick and padded. And so we then said, right, okay, well, you take these bits and I'll take these bits, and we'll make with some tape, and we'll make them a bit robust, and then we'll have a duel. And so I went off and I got these two corner pieces. I joined them together and I had plenty of tape, and I kind of made a kind of hand guard, and it was like, oh yeah, I've got a really good solid sword. And then Steve comes back with his, and we start dueling. And mine just completely crumples. He's lopping chunks of mine off, and it's just breaking up. I've never ended up with just this stump in my hand. And what Mr. Cheetah had done was he'd found a bit of plastic tubing, which he'd put inside his two bits. It was an unfair
I
duel.
wouldn't say it was cheating. I would say it was just creativity. Okay, we'll move on. Matt,
This is the quickfire round, isn't it?
It is the quickfire. Which Warhammer sculpture was your favourite to paint?
My favourite to paint? Probably be my Mars Pattern class Warhound Titan, which I bought everyone kind of chipped in and gave me vouchers for my 50th birthday, and it was a big model, and I'd always wanted one, and so that one.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
It's
Cool.
my favourite.
We'll put a picture.
Yeah, put a picture. One word to describe working in our family business.
One word to describe it. Now, supportive.
Oh, like that. Nice. Yeah. What was the first thing you ever sold?
I don't know. It would probably have been something like a Viking slider or a Manhattan mattress.
Do you remember the song that our warehouse team used to sing about the Manhattan mattress?
No, I don't remember that one.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Manhattan Mat. That's what I think of when I hear that Manhattan mattress.
But yes, they did. When they were loading the lorries and they were calling out, they said, what's next? Manhattan Mat.
Okay, if you weren't working in the business, what do you think you would be doing?
So, I mean, the uni course that I nearly did was biomanagement, and because it was like biology and management as well. I think something in that field.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. That's the end of our quickfire question round. Quickfire question round. So we held the tip. So we need tip of the week. So Matt, what would be your tip of the week for? Yeah.
Okay. As I was alluding to earlier, is when you're undertaking something that is outside of your kind of knowledge and scope, don't be afraid to get somebody in that does have that knowledge. So Les that I mentioned with the IT, he was invaluable, not only in kind of whittling down all of the various systems to kind of a small selection so that we could choose. But then liaising with the developer to make sure that things ran and that our best interests were being served. And then with Mike is just kind of having that knowledge that you don't have, and being able to bring that into the business so that you can have kind of accurate reporting, and so that you can make decisions based on facts rather than, I know Dad said he liked doing it on gut feel, but sometimes you're better off doing it with insight.
I think that's a really good tip, actually. And in fact, you could go back further, Matt, to when we first started with our business coach in 2014, it was me and you, and the same thing, wasn't it? Is bringing in expertise of things that you don't have, and you know that done an incredible job.
Yeah,
right at the very beginning.
that kind of alluded to in his episode that he could never do that.
No.
And I know initially there was a lot of, we were like kind of
kickback.
Why are you asking us to count people coming in? But it was getting an understanding of how the business was actually performing, and where you needed to apply the leverage to try and get it to a point where it actually kind of worked for us. That's been completely invaluable.
Cool, that's a really good tip. Thank you, Matt. So that's the end of our podcast.
We just started.
Yeah,
I've got reams of stories over here.
Well, you'll come back. So I need to do a readout, Matt, and just a little wrap up. So that's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's the end of our 9th edition episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think it's been really good, Matt, chatting to you. My next week's guest is a very important guest, a wonderful, beautiful person. It's my wife. Paula is going to come and join us in the chair, and we're going to be talking about life as husband and wife in the same business with her children, and what it's like to be
and her favourite brother-in-law.
What it's like to be performance reviewed by your husband. So that is going to be really interesting. I hope you can find time to listen to that. Also, don't forget, new episodes drop every single Wednesday, so don't forget to tune in. And if you want any more unfiltered business talk, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn at An Unorthodox CEO. First time, boom. Yes. So if you've been listening to this in the morning, good morning, and I hope you've slept well. If you're listening while you're eating your lunch, enjoy that sandwich. And if you're listening while you're in bed, and I hope it's a comfortable bed, and if it's not, you can always pop down to a Sussex Beds. Good night, enjoy, and we'll catch up again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Woo!